This is One-on-One. Steve Adubato here in Atlantic City at Atlantic City Convention Center. This is the 2017 NJEA Convention, the 164th time this has happened. We are honored to be joined once again by the Executive Director of the NJEA, Ed Richardson. Good to see you, Ed.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for being here.
We should say we're taping this just a few days after a historic event in New Jersey. There is a new governor coming in, Phil Murphy. Thoughts about that?
He was just here. And
he was just at the convention.
He was at the convention. He stopped by, delivered brief remarks to a packed audience right here on the exhibit floor. His voice is a little wavering, as can be expected, but it was truly energizing. And I think our members are genuinely looking forward to working with new leadership in New Jersey. He's got some bold ideas, particularly about education. He said this morning, job one is that we need to fully fund our schools, which has not been done in the last 8 years. He did. And
what kind of reaction did he get?
Standing ovation. Everyone spontaneously stood and applauded that, because our members understand that for the last 8 years, our schools have been desperately underfunded, and yet, through their perseverance, our schools are still top performing in this nation. And so that's just, it's a testament to the work of our members all over the state.
By the way, when we interviewed Ambassador Murphy, candidate for governor at the time, we talked about this issue, pension issue, which we'll talk about with that in a second, and also talk specifically about where the dollars would come from, just a minor issue. But that's all important, and we'll also be talking to him when he takes office and deals with the governing side of things. But let's talk about this piece. I want to get to the convention in a second, but politics is something that the NJEA is involved in many ways. The number one thing is to be advocates for teachers, for educators, but you pick your spots. When you make a decision with the Senate president, which we talked about last year, right, to get involved in that campaign, explain to folks the rationale.
Well, first of all, it's not my decision, or even
the organization.
Right. We have elected leaders who come together in a screening process, and then an even larger body, 125 members, who vote on those decisions. And over the course of his time in the Senate, there have been times when we have endorsed Senator Sweeney, times when we have not. And but there have been major decisions that have taken place directly affecting our members, directly affecting their work with students, directly affecting their pocketbooks. And time again, they've been disappointed by many of those decisions. And so, not an easy thing, obviously, to to go into a campaign where we've endorsed the opponent of the Senate president, but that decision was made and we stood behind it. Now, in talking with our members here...
Yeah, what's the attitude?
They get it. They understand that we had to take a stand.
Was that what it's about, taking a stand?
That's what it's about. It's about again, advocating for the interests of our members, advocating for the interests of our public schools, and sending the message that we're just not going to allow those interests to be constantly undermined. That when we need to, we absolutely will stand up for our members and our students in our schools.
A couple of things to disclose. The New Jersey Education Association is a major underwriter of public broadcasting in the state, of our programming, and I just want to put that out there. Ed, but let's stay on this whole question of involvement. So interesting. Explain to folks that, how many members is it, over 200,000?
Over 200,000, yes.
The leadership of the NJEA. You're on the staff side, you've got this terrific group of people moving up on the elected side. The decision-making process, how do you engage folks with such a large constituency?
I often describe this as sort of painfully democratic, because...
Painfully?
Yes, because running a democratic organization of that size is difficult. And yet, that's been our tradition, that's our history. Tomorrow, our policymaking body will meet. They meet 5 times a year. It's, again, another group of 125 people elected by members from all over the state. And they come together and they set the positions on all of the key issues.
How's spirited the discussion?
Sometimes vary.
Different points of view?
Different points of view, obviously. You mentioned that, I'm on the staff side of the organization, but I'm accountable to an elected board of members. We have an executive committee of 28 people. Again, elected.
You answer to them?
I answer to them. I'm appointed by them. They approve my contract. So we are a member-governed organization, and we never forget that. And our elected leaders, the 3 full-time officers, elected at large by the members of the organization.
So the president, the vice president, and the secretary-treasurer.
Correct.
Well, so let's do this. If you were, in terms of agenda, you did talk about fully funding, but I want to move to the other question. I shouldn't say the other question as if it's so obvious. We were here with Ed last year, and we did talk about the pension crisis. Mm-hmm. Is that the right word, crisis? The public employee pension crisis. Is it the right word?
Depends on how you look at it. Is it a crisis in that it's going to run out of money in a year or two? No. We have forestalled that to some degree with some of the funding that's been appropriated. But in a broader sense, yes, because every member of NJEA, every public employee, we always say has never missed a payment. 7.5% of salary comes out of the paychecks of every one of our members every pay period. And over the last 20 years, the state has just uniformly failed to meet its obligations.
Sometimes called a pension holiday.
Pension holiday,
I think
that's a euphemistic term.
Yeah. What does it really mean?
It's an abrogation of responsibility is really what it is. And not just us saying that. Governor Christie's own Pension Study Commission said that over the course of multiple administrations, multiple legislatures over the last 2 decades, that the state has just failed. And
what happens, sorry for interrupting, Ed, what happens when that happens?
Well, essentially the contributions of the employees just aren't adequate to sustain the fund, and it does eventually run out of money. Now, so that's a very scary thing, not just for the people who are relying on that for their retirement security, that's a scary thing for the state of New Jersey, because the state Supreme Court has repeatedly affirmed that those people are entitled to those benefits no matter what. If the state were if the state had to pay those obligations directly out of the state budget, it would cripple the state, and no one wants to see that happen. So we need to get back to responsible funding. We can do that. We can transition into it and get to full payments and get the system healthy again so that we never have to worry about that day.
Off of politics in the time we have left. This convention, I've often asked you this. What does it represent?
Professional development. You're here on the exhibit floor, and there's great energy here.
What else is going on around here?
Go up the 2 levels above us, 250 workshops over 2 days. Everything from classroom management, special education, math workshops, language arts workshops, science teaching workshops.
New ways to teach. New ways to teach.
New ways to teach, new ways to sharpen up on delivery of content. You name it, it's here.
It's interesting. And
here's the other thing. It's all free.
What do you mean it's all free?
Well, if our school districts were to attempt to replicate the professional development we are delivering here, it would cost the taxpayers millions of dollars. And yet, our members are here when they could be doing something else.
They're not, excuse me for interrupting, they're not mandated to be here.
In some cases, a district requires them to bring back proof of attendance. So if you're coming here, you have to demonstrate you were here.
But most who come here are part of what goes on.
Exactly, exactly. And so they're here to learn. They're here to learn how to become better educators.
Final question. The biggest misconception, I ask you this every time, but I still want to get at this. The biggest misconception about educators is?
I think it's that whole, 9 to 3, summer's free mantra. I don't know a member who only works from 9 to 3. And in terms of the summer's free, well, our members only get paid for the time that they work. More than 2/3 have other jobs. And what's really exacerbated that is a law known as Chapter 78.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
Right.
Real quick, what that is?
It basically forced massive employee healthcare premium shares on our members. Completely cut through collective bargaining and any other process. It's just state law requires you to pay X. Now, this is a profession that has already been identified by the Economic Policy Institute as behind their peers on a total compensation basis by 10%. All in, when you factor in differences in the work year, differences in their retirement security, and 10% behind. And so members are hurting as a result of that. Many of them taking home less net pay in September than they took home in June. And we have to change that.
And so look, so you're saying in the new administration, the new government in Trenton, you're looking to change this?
Yes, absolutely.
Ed, thank
we
you.
just need to level the playing field.
We appreciate you joining us. We appreciate the NJEA allowing us to be here at the 164th annual convention. And
well, we very much appreciate you being here. Thank you again, Steve.
Well done.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Wells Fargo, Berkeley College, New Jersey Resources, St. Joseph's Health, the Turl Fund, supporting Right from the Start NJ, New Jersey Sharing Network, and by the Fidelco Group. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.